This is a quick recording to go through a sample behavior-driven design test using Behat and Gherkin. Gherkin is the syntax that we use for writing these tests, and it's a feature-based, scenario-driven testing script. So we're going to start with a feature for parent activity and athletics forms. In order to register my child for an activity or athletics program, as a parent, I need to complete a registration form and be able to add or edit new ones. Then we've defined several scenarios. The first scenario is a long one. We go ahead and fill in actually 3 different forms in the same scenario. This way the same parent can access and verify that they all end up on the management screen. After that, we have a secretary view that will log in and verify that the last student was successfully added under the activity and searchable by name. And then we have a cleanup script. So this is the script we're going to run through really quickly. And to do that, I'm in my test directory and I launch Behat. This is going to fire up a browser and step through all of this code, and I will keep everything running here and try and make it visible so you can see the feature steps in here. And it's going to basically create a user account and log in as that user. It's done this with some random text. The green results are success, and it starts filling in the form based on the form data. And so you can see in the background what it's doing, and each test that succeeds gets printed in green. If one fails, it'll get printed in red, and if there's some test steps that are unknown, they'll get printed in yellow. If there's a failed test, it will skip all the remaining tests and print them in blue. So in this first run through for Jane, she's added as a 6th grader, and so this athletics option form is being tested to see that the 6th grade exercises and activities are visible on page 3. That's what's really helpful about this test, is that the form elements are dependent on some of the answers previously about what grade level they're in and whether or not they're doing athletics. Okay, so Jane is successfully submitted, and she shows up on the students or on the parents' list of completed forms. Now we're adding Michael. We can see that Michael is in 8th grade, so he will have a different set of athletics available. So far, so good. So now we're going through the tests to see whether each of the activities for an 8th grader are visible. And not all of them, but just some that we know are there and that are not in the 6th grade, and in some cases not in the high school. And now Michael is done. Now for Bobby, we are going to try and break the form a little bit. We skip checking the activity code of conduct and verified that we got an error message. And then on part 2, we are doing some other checks, we went to try and hit the admin form and verified that we could not access it. We went back to our parents form where we can see all three, and visit the edit link to go back to our form and head over to part 2. Now here we're testing the show and hide behavior of some of the tertiary fields, making sure they show up under the right conditions depending on which radio button is selected. And we tested that the required fields actually throw an error message when they are unchecked. And now we're looking for the high school athletics options. Okay, so that scenario is complete. Now we're going to the athletic secretary roster and making sure that we can find Bobby in here. So it's not on the first page, so we are doing a search by last name. And there he is. Now we're testing for finding him on the football roster, and he was found on the screen, although it was below where it could see. And then finally at the end, now each of these users that were created are deleted at the end of the scenario. So the user account that was used to create these registrations no longer exists. This being Drupal 6, it did not take the content along with it. So that's why we were able to test in the other scenarios that these registrations were created. Now we need to clean them up so that we can finish the scenario. So we're searching for the registration form as an admin and bulk deleting them. And we had an entirely successful scenario. 3 scenarios passed, 160 steps in 6 minutes.